and we have the green light for the stream, so it's in a healthy state. So, hello everybody, welcome to the first 2026 ADA Meetup. It's been a long while since we had one, but that's for the best. We'll have more topics to talk about. And yeah, from my side, I have quite a list of topics that I created in the forum, which you should be able to see now. I'm sharing my screen. So, one event that I did not put in the forum was FOSDEM 2026. I was there last week. Ada Orbit, who is with us here also, was there. We met there. And it was a pretty nice event, always chaotic, always buzzing. There were, sadly, no ADA content or talks or stands or anything. But that doesn't mean that we were standing still, not really doing anything. I had the opportunity to talk again to the NLNet people. And, well, let's see where those talks lead us. Hopefully, we'll have some good news in a few months about them. Also, adding to the FOSDEM or the FOSDEM Live, there were a lot of presentations. If you go into the schedule, there were a lot of topics discussed. And just as a reminder, we don't need a specific ADA dev room to talk about ADA or present ADA. We could have talked about ADA-related topics in several of them, like, for example, hopefully you can see it, the GCC toolchain dev room, the LLVM one, since now we have GNAT-LLVM. There was also a very interesting topic, which I cannot find right now, the automobile dev room, where quite a few topics about safety critical and certification things were discussed. And that was very interesting because ADA wasn't mentioned a single time, which is, I wouldn't say weird, we all know that happens, but it was kind of sad to see that they are still discussing how to get to the highest level of certification, especially now that last year NVIDIA open sourced guidelines on how to get ASIL level 4 certification for automobile operating systems, and nobody seemed to be aware of that. So I think we should do a better job at communicating news about ADA to the relevant spheres where they may also benefit from those news. On that topic, I was also told that there are a lot of automobile people interested on those topics in the Linux Foundation Tokyo meetup, the Asian meetup, which takes place in December. And I was given some tips on how I could finance that trip. So I may look into going to Tokyo this December to talk a little bit about ADA. But if I do, obviously I'll tell you more about that in the future. Talking about conferences, the next topic, ADA Europe International Conference 2026. Just as a reminder, it will take place in Sweden, Västerås, which is about an hour from Stockholm. And the deadlines are approaching. So if you want to propose a topic in the different tracks that are available, the journal track, the industrial track, please do so as soon as possible. Just as a reminder, in case you are focused on research, any presentations, any topics, any papers that are talked about during the conference, they will be published by Elsevier in a Q1 ranked journal. So that's the highest one you can get. So that's always interesting for the academic people. So again, please submit the topics if you have them, especially because the first deadline is the 13th of February and the next one is the 27th of February. So there is not much time. And talking about ADA, the ADA Europe conference, literally yesterday, 2 days ago, we got the confirmation that we have been accepted for the ADA Developers Workshop, which Dirk published. Yeah, it was literally yesterday. So again, this year we'll have the ADA Developers Workshop. Again, we are going to look for sponsors to reduce the price as much as possible and make it as available as possible to the public. Last year we had pretty good. It was pretty well received. About 20 people showed up in person. We were hovering at around 13 people online. So that was really good. And it seems that the interest is growing. And if you are going to come to the main conference, you can stay one more day on Friday where we will have the developers workshop. And again, it's a lot more informal. You can just showcase your projects, topics, etc. as you like. And in case you missed last year's workshop in Paris, the videos have been uploaded. You can search for them in the forums. I may leave a video in the minutes of the meeting in case you are interested on some of those topics. And again, about deadlines, ADA Spain has a general competition of projects, academic projects, and the finishing date for the last day to submit your ideas on projects, it's literally in about 6 days. So please, if you haven't submitted it, do so, as we want to have as many projects from students in any kind of category, PhDs, masters, grades, or whatever, submitted so that we can have as many topics to talk about. So this was about the general announcements, reminders from conferences, etc. Going into the more technical topics, in case you were not aware, the parallel features from ADA 2022 have been implemented in GNAT. However, they have not been upstreamed to the main GCC GNAT as they are still a work in progress. There are still some missing bits and pieces, but they are in beta. They are available for you to test. So if you would like to do so, you can just use Alar and to install it. And Max maintains also a repository. Maxim has some pre-built binaries of this branch, of the parallel branch, that you can just download and start using them. We have almost full support, but again, not quite. And the main missing piece of the parallel support is parallel iterators. So ADA 2022 also supports parallel reduce attributes. Those are still not fully implemented. And Takertaf, Richard Y are looking for feedback, are looking for early testers. So please, if you can, download it, test it, try to modify some of your code to see if it runs faster, if it doesn't. And just as a reminder, it's not enough to have the compiler, this pre-built GCC compiler with the parallel feature branch, but also you will need an implementation of the parallel library, because ADA has a very modular approach to how parallelism is implemented. If you don't have a library, the parallel keyword is literally going to be ignored and your code is going to be compiled sequentially, as it was happening as of today. But you can install the lightweight threads library, LWT library, which will enable parallel support for your parallel code using OpenMP. And if you're interested, you can implement your own parallel features and support also for GNAT if you are so inclined. Also, Sparklib gained functional tree support, which is not really usable, but it's the first step to gain full tree support in SparkLeap. And again, in case you're not familiar with the SparkLeap, it is a fully formally verified library, standard library in Spark. It has quite a few features like vectors, maps, etc. That you can use. It also has support for like verified C interfaces in case you're interfacing with C code and you would like to make that interface a little bit more robust. You can do that. And big news, SparkLeap has been added to Allure as its own independent crate. Before, using SparkLeap was quite difficult, to be honest with you. You had to download GNAT-proof and see where some GPR files were within GNAT-proof and then import those within your project. It was messy. It was not simple. It was not straightforward. Well, thanks to Cesar from Adacore, SparkLeap has been published as its own standalone library. So you can now just do Allure with SparkLeap, and now you will be able to use the full SparkLeap features without having to do anything fancy with your build tools. Another announcement: GNAT-LLVM has been upgraded to support LLVM version 21. I tried to build this branch. It's still not quite there. There is just one single error I'm getting during the build time. But yeah, basically we have LLVM 21 support for GNAT-LLVM, which is always very nice. We get a much more improved LLVM infrastructure for our code. Also, Charlie, Dimitri, and other people are looking into implementing or re-implementing an extended, well, not an extended, re-implementing the distributed annex from scratch. As some of you may already be aware, PolyOrb, the implementation of the DSA, the Distributed Systems Annex, that was available for GCC, has been put into maintenance mode. That means it's no longer going to be improved, and only fixes, bug fixes, security fixes are going to be applied to it. So some people started looking into, well, how can we implement our own DSA? So if you're interested, please go into this forum thread to, well, see how that's happening. And again, because of Ada's plugging architecture, open architecture towards implementations of different aspects, we can have several different implementations of the DSA within the compiler. And in the past we had, I believe it was Garlic or something like that. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. We had PolyOrb. Well, now some people are looking into creating a more modernized DSA. So if you're interested, also, please take a look at it. And I don't know if we have Paul with us. Yes, we have Paul. So, Paul, would you like to go ahead and present your fourth project, or should I introduce it?
No, I can talk through it.
Okay.
So there's been some talk on the forum. Can you guys hear me, Fernando?
Perfectly.
Okay, cool. There's been talk about it would be great if we had like a verified backend for a compiler in Ada, and then you can verify the entire build chain and build the entire formal verified system from there. So I didn't have time to write a smaller program, so I wrote a larger one, and I'm not familiar with forths. So and I don't have any formal verification training. So I was like, I'm going to try to make a fourth in Spark, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So the first thing I did was I made a postfix calculator, and I had a great time doing that. I was able to verify the operations, everything through Alire with NatProve, learned a bunch of stuff, and then it was early December. I was like, I think I want to try and do like an actual fourth with like branches and maybe loops and some other things. I didn't know anything about it, and I prototyped some in a bunch of Python, and I prototyped it in C++. I was like, okay, I think I know enough. So I managed to get some of the bunch of the operations proved with Spark. But the other thing that I realized is that you can prove the operations, but you can also prove things about the generated instructions for the compiled words that you have. So like when it compiles jumps, it verifies that the jumps are valid. They're either gonna go into a valid instruction or they're gonna go to the last instruction, which is where you're gonna be writing next. So as a project right now, it's not super useful, but something like this might be useful for like a replay of known inputs if you to verify that some sort of fourth code with related inputs doesn't it abides by all the conditions that you expect it to. But I don't know if I can extend it for assembly emission or branch it off and try that. But like there's been a lot of talk about like AI and AI writing code, and the question like the past 30 years have been about like how do we express code succinctly, and like nowadays there's a lot of code that's being generated and a lot of code that's out there, and the question is like how do you know that code is correct? And that's a huge point that that Ada has been focused on for basically its entire lifetime. And it's something that like with ranges and especially with things like Spark that we can selectively use on elements, that I think is something that there's not a lot of focus on. And it's if someone with no formal verification training and never having written a far forth before can go in and do both of these things, there's a lot of potential there. But that was my experience. It was very positive. I had a great time doing it. So I appreciate any help anyone was given to me on that. So I was here in case anyone had any questions or anything. So.
And just to add to what you said, you also wrote a blog post about it.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about it. I just try to be very straightforward about it. It's a lot easier. When I tried to write some Spark code like 3 or 4 years ago, there's like tooling issues, and I'm on Windows at the time, and it was like the tooling has gotten really, really good. Like from my first time writing Ada in like 2021 to now, it's like a liar. I can compile, I can grab NAT proof, like the VS Code integration that Maxim's been working on. It's fantastic. I mean, jump to definitions and all this sort of stuff work. IntelliSense works because it's in VS Code, VS Gemini Code Assistant. You can like dump your prover errors into Gemini Code Assistant is what I was doing. Just be like, hey, can you help me here? And it wasn't able to solve everything, but it was able to provide like some guidance, and all that code is all handwritten. But like there's the ecosystem around the entire Ada is really, really underestimated, I think. So I think y'all have been doing a very fantastic job. I just want to say that to everybody. Anyone who's worked on any of these things, it's fantastic. Y'all done a great job.
Thank you. And I would like to have a question to you. Since you mentioned AI, I've seen some topics about that in the forums. And I am also especially interested in, some people have been saying spec-driven development, like were you doing something like this, writing what you wanted with the proofs that you wanted and hoping that you would get the code done right, or that a Spark would tell you where the AI failed? What's your experience, basically?
So I had a spec, like a markdown spec that I wrote first, of like these are the functions that I want. This is kind of what and I went back and forth with Gemini on that. Just having it double check. One of the best uses of AI that I've had is just reviewing my work, because I'm a remote worker who's far away from anybody. So having something I can get real-time feedback on, you don't always trust it. Like, I mean, challenge it, make it work for you. But it is a fantastic tool. I have done things on the plain Ada side, like generate like a if you're familiar with Rust's box and reference counted types, RC. I've had it generate the like somewhat equivalents in Ada and plain Ada, but I do think that some of these things that people have been concerned about like with regards to duplication, like spec files versus implementation files are actually a strength. Like if you constrain um, if you constrain the AI to only write implementation files, there's a little bit of nuance because you need sometimes you need compiler information in the private side of the spec files. But there, if you lock down your spec files, there's a lot that you can do um, to let it go on the implementation side, so that you're. And then if you get something to a point, you can go in and hand write it or hand rewrite it if you're exploring or initially just exploring the problem space. But there are a lot of usages and a lot of things about Ada that make it exceptionally good for AI um, de- development with AI, like all the ranges, the constraints, the invariants. There's a lot of things that you can do. Just one line of code, putting in checks all over across your program. Um, it's amazing leverage that you can get there. And I haven't heard anyone talk about it, so I don't know if anyone's even looked. So
I have a
Are
couple of
there?
questions.
Oh,
Oh,
please
sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that has been mentioned over the years about using Spark is that you don't have to test nearly as much. So I was wondering if you also experienced that as well. And my other question was that did, well, actually, let me let you answer that one first. Then I'll ask my second one afterwards.
the Spark workflow is beautiful. Is like the nice way of saying it. Like the very succinct way is like when you're doing the proofs, there were times that I was like, I am certain this code is right, this prover is wrong. Like, this prover must be broken, and then it'd be like, oh, okay, I obviously missed this thing over here. Like, never assume that like the core elements are broken, but like that was like, I don't know what I'm missing here, and the prover is like, you're definitely missing something here. So normally when I write Ada, like when I did Septum, I don't think I had a single seg fault like the entire time I wrote it, all the way up until like the very end with like the um, C bindings, like right at the very end. And there's a lot of, I use a lot of preconditions, postconditions, even just in my general code. And the Spark workflow of build, prove, build, prove, build, prove works really fast. I have some, they're called golden file test or acceptance test that I used. They catch some things, but I mentioned this in the blog post that you have to be very consistent on the post conditions that you're writing, because something fundamental like that the thing that function I wrote that always returns true that I totally forgot about until like later on in development, like things like that will get you. But in terms of did I write the correct code, there's a lot of confidence that you get, especially later on in the project, that I don't think I've had. Like I've had lots of test batteries and things before, but there's a lot of confidence and a lot of speed you get though too, because it forces you to structure your programs in ways that um, separate things out and track the state appropriately. So does that make sense, Weston?
Yes, yes, yes. My second question is that uh, one of the things that has also been mentioned over there is that like Ada as you can provide so much information and then in type definition and the specs so that a compiler would have more information to be able to optimize there. But so I was just thinking that you mentioned about AI. So do you find that the AI is able to extract that extra rich information that the Ada system provides, and then it therefore can honor those, and then it helps it write the code?
My
Or does
impression
it
is that
like
it
ignore it
does.
and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna write just like I would do in C?
My impression is that even though there's probably a lot less Ada code available, that it does do a good job of using what's there. That's my impression. Maybe that's other people have different experiences, but like I have trouble programming in Ada, if that makes sense. It's much more of like if I try to just code, it doesn't work. If I try to like solve the problem through the code, that's like a different like mental mindset to have. Like just telling it everything pushing every single possible comment into somewhere in the code, like with a static predicate or with a dynamic predicate or with a range or a type, like pushing every single concept into the code. The code flows much better, and I do think the AI picks up on that, but I haven't. I use it more for review than for writing code, but that's something I might look more into.
Is there a particular agent that you think is best so far
Um,
to use with Ada?
I've been using Google's Gemini. It's affordable for me right now. I haven't tried it with Claude. The 200 a month is not something that I've able to do right now. So I am curious how it would do. But Gemini has been fantastic and a lot better than you would think it would be, given like the amount of open source Ada code.
Thank you.
We have some comments in the chat. Luke says, sounds like the prover could do better errors showing what's missing. And Daniel King states the provers can sometimes provide counterexamples like this checks fails when x equals 1 to 3, but that's not always possible.
So if you you also have to make sure you run NatProof correctly with like the counterexamples equals on or whatever, but it doesn't always give you counterexamples. But I have done like put the entire source directory into Gemini context with my proof error, and it has gone like, you need to change this line here, and like that's worked. So, but that's not like 100%. That's maybe like, I'd say like half the time it'll tell you exactly what to change, but a lot of the time it will just, even if it just gives you an idea of like, oh, I didn't think about, maybe that's what's wrong with the proof. But it is a lot better at helping for the proofs than you would think it is. If you have any doubt about AI, like it's a good tool to have, and overall the entire experience was fantastic. So that's all I have.
To add to your answer, I think we do a very poor job, or maybe GNAT-Proof does a poor job, because sometimes it just says whatever proof might fail, and generally GNAT-Proof has three states. Either it proves something that is fully correct, then or it says that it might fail, in which case it didn't prove it was going to fail, but it also couldn't prove that it was definitely going to work. And then when it definitely finds an error, it generally always states the error, or it gives you a counterexample. So if GNAT-Proof doesn't give you a counterexample, it's just because it probably couldn't analyze the full correctness of the thing, but it also didn't find any issues with it. So maybe you need to increment the steps, I think that's called, or something like that. The analysis steps. Yeah, or the level. The level is generally the quickest, easiest way of telling GNAT-Proof to do a better job.
If you have golden file tests like I did, where you can literally just run a bunch of examples, what I did sometimes was, rather than trying to run the prover on it, I would just try to run the code on the examples, and then with all of the contract checks on, and then those contract checks often will find whatever issue that you're having and give you an actual concrete example of what's wrong. So that's also a neat trick to try if you haven't tried it.
Do we have any more questions? 8-Hour-Bit says, I used Mistral AA free edition once, and it used type as a variable name. Yeah, some AIs are probably better than others. I think there was some big announcement like 2 days ago about
most
GPT
of the time I
was
using Gemini, it did give me compilable code. So it's $20 a month, but it's a very, very powerful tool to have. So
I just want to make a comment that I would just say I've read some of your blogs, and it's just really great to read your experiences, especially coming from other languages, and it's just great to see that your proof that it's not hard to pick up Ada, and the fact that you picked up Spark as well without any training in formal methods, and then you tackled on a little language that you've never worked with before. And it's just really great to read about your successes, and I really appreciate. I hope you do more such blogs as well.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Do we have any more questions? Then if not, thank you, Paul. Thank you for your comments, your experience, your point of view. And again, Paul also did a forum post and a blog. So if you would like to see more of the details of the trip that he took, they are documented in the blog post. And obviously this is open source. I believe you posted the link, no? Yeah. So if you're curious. Yeah. So anybody can, if you're interested, go ahead and take a look at the code. Then I think I've covered most of the news or big events, but I have I have a couple of forum things that I would like to tell you about. The first one, in case you were not aware, or if you created your forum account a while ago, there is now a new forum category called Help. This is to differentiate questions or blog or forum posts that are related more into language questions or tooling or library issues that people need some help with. And that separates the helping kind of questions from the general discussions that also take place. If you had your account for a while, it will not appear in your categories. So you want to click on the pencil here in the categories dropdown and just say which categories you would like to show on your bar and filter them. And talking about categories, I have a special announcement to make. If you've been part of the Ada Users Society, you will have, this is actually public, anybody could have read this. You will have read the summary of activities of 2025, and in one of the paragraphs, in a couple of sentences, there is something that says that the Ada User Society has been working on a awards kind of activity. Basically, it boils down to financing activities in within the Ada community, within the Ada ecosystem. Well, I'm very happy to announce that we had the Ada Awards Committee. That's how we call ourselves, but don't take it too seriously. We had our first meeting this week, and we are almost ready to start moving, making the machine roll, making the ball roll, basically. So expect an announcement in the forums about this with more details, but basically we are likely, it's not just yet fully decided, but we are likely going to have another forum category about project ideas that you would like to see funding or that you yourselves would like to receive funding for. Now, when I say the word funding, it sounds like we have a lot of money. We don't. It's just a minute symbolic thing, but it's some baby steps, a small, let's say, project, a pilot program that we are trying to do. And that way we would like to incentivize the further improvements of the Ada ecosystem, where we think that the community is going to greatly benefit regarding some pain points, historical pain points in the Ada ecosystem, or also bring Ada to newer communities. So for people that may greatly benefit from Ada, but they are currently not using it for some reasons, we would like to encourage those kinds of contributions so that we also grow the community a little bit. And while, as I said, it's not going to be a large economical incentive, it's not, it's just a symbolic thing, we also expect or hope that newer, younger programmers would take on those tasks, on those challenges, and hopefully they can also receive a small kickback, a small incentive towards them. And that way we can also incentivize newer, younger programmers to be involved within the ADA ecosystem. And as I said, because of FOSDEM, we are also looking into other sources or revenue streams, but that's more in the middle future. But yeah, expect an announcement from us and the ADA User Society very soon with more details on the actual method that we are going to use and the procedures that we are going to use, so that you, the wider community, can propose project ideas for them to get funded. And you are allowed to propose ideas that you yourself want to work on and you want to get that small award and small prize. Now, obviously, we don't have infinite money and we cannot accept all kinds of ideas. Everybody is going to have their opinion, and that's why we have a kind of a committee that are with the ideas that are proposed by the community. We are going to have a small meeting, see which ones we feel are the most urgent or impactful or realistic, and then we are going to select those, and we will make announcements about that. We also hope in the main ADA Lang page, we also hope to leverage the projects to work on section, which right now just lists a bunch of project ideas depending on the topic. We hope to create a header on the top about projects that have been selected and are going to be funded by the ADA data awards if they are completed, so that everybody has like a quick glance and a quick view of what's currently in the menu for a prize. We will only be giving money to the people that actually finish the tasks. We are not going to be paying in advance, and we hope to allow for like a mix and match. If you want to collaborate with other people because you're good at, I don't know, some kind of work environment or library, but you're not good enough at some problem solving or some infrastructure that the code may need, you can work together with other people, and we hope to find a good, honest way of breaking up the prize among the people that did contribute to the final result. This is a little bit complicated, and obviously it can have a lot of issues, but we hope, to kickstart this movement of improving the number and the quality of contributions to the ADA ecosystem. So again, this is the pre-announcement but expect something from us in the coming weeks, as it has been mostly decided on already. So yeah, I'm happy about that. It's been in the works for a few months. Some of you will remember me teasing this for a long time. It took longer than expected, but it is here, and we hope to grow further. And obviously, if you would like to contribute, if you think that the ADA Awards Committee is doing a good job, and you would like to kind of incentivize some work on the ADA system, we are always looking forward to more revenue streams, towards more donations. But the best thing you can do right now is just literally become part of the ADA User Society, and just as a member, get the benefits from them, and just be in the loop, be aware of what's happening, voice your opinion, voice your concerns, your proposed ideas, and yeah, I'm happy about that. And with that, that's basically all the announcements that I had in mind. that I wanted to tell you about. If anybody would like to share their concerns, ideas, news, etc., now it's a really good time to do so.
Oh yeah, I'd like to just say that yeah, it's great to hear about what's going on with the Ada User Society. I did join, and one thing that in case people want to know is that the membership fee. So even if you like sign up like in the middle of the year, but that fee will just count for that whole year. So it's not like it's going to start and end at on your anniversary day of when you sign up. It's just you're paying for the year. So that's how it works currently right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and additionally to what you just said, that reminded me, obviously the Ada User Society is doing more than just the awards thing, that's a part of it. It is also working with the ISO standard, the Standardization Committee for Ada. They are paying to have a representative in there. That costs quite a bit of money. If you are part of the Ada User Society in the General Assembly that happened, I believe, in November last year or October, yeah, you can see the costs of everything and where your money is actually being used for. So yeah, just letting you know, we try to be as transparent as possible with what's happening and the activities that are being financed and how they are being financed, in case you're interested. And we are already quite a few members, to be honest with you. We had a good initial growth, let's say, and let's see if we can create a more solid society, let's say. If you have, obviously, oh, I see 15 messages in the group. Does anybody want to open their mic and create an open question?
Oh, actually, I have a question.
Yes.
So a while back, you had had a post about you were creating a set of slides to present to a friend
Oh,
about
yes.
Ada. I was wondering what happened with that.
No. Okay, so I didn't want to talk about it because it's still a work in progress. So a friend of mine, she's a really good programmer, but she works in mostly infrastructure. She works at a bank in the Middle East remotely. And it's mostly doing backend things with Go, the Go programming language. So she's a Go girl. But she was interested in Ada, and now we're doing some embedded systems projects using TinyGo for her cats and creating a feeder. And she was interested in learning Ada, so I took it upon myself to create like a full presentation of Ada. Obviously, that's impossible to do in a reasonable way, but I'm not a very reasonable person. So I took it upon myself to create what I call the unhinged introduction to Ada, which is one of the issues I have with most introductions to Ada. They either give you a bird's eye view of the language, or they only focus in a particular topic, just like the easy simple bits of the type system, the easy simple bits of package management, the easy simple bits of general control flow. And I wanted to actually show the strengths of Ada, which sometimes do require showcasing and understanding some of the more advanced features of Ada. So for the past 3 months, I've been working on the slide deck. It's already 200 slides. It's going to grow to probably over 400 slides. So yeah, it's a long process. I already did a presentation to her about types and the type system of Ada. That's already 180 slides. Obviously, slides with animations. So I have a lot of animations to guide the eyes of the people looking at them, so that nobody gets lost on the content. So yeah, that's the large number of slides, but it's work in progress, and I actually recorded it, but I think I will have to re-record it because the audio is not great. The microphones were good, but not. I was looking at her and then looking at the screen continuously, so my voice, the dynamic range of my voice is way too large and way too uncomfortable to publish. So I think I'll just re-record it and make it also a little bit shorter, because it ended up being a 3-hour presentation of only types about Ada. Luckily, she's good. She could handle it, but yeah, it was a bit boring, and I need to find a more approachable way towards that presentation. Yeah, lol. I also fully agree with that. But that's also the kind of interesting way, and I explain why in the presentation, why I focus so much on types, and that there is a reason why last year I gave a presentation in FOSDEM about them. And data is basically 50% of problem solving in computer programming. You have your inputs, your outputs, that's data, and then you have the black box, the computing stuff. It can be the full program, it can be a single function, it can be a module of your program. So once you define very nicely the inputs and the outputs, you have 50% of the problem already solved. Now it's getting from those inputs to those outputs. And you can always break it down and create intermediate data. So you have inputs, some processing, intermediate representation, some more processing, and outputs. And once you understand that, and once you wrap your head around that, correctly detailing the data and the information you're working with, both in the inputs and in the outputs, that basically gives you a 50% of the solution done. And I think that's very valuable. And I've been talking to a few people of other communities outside of Ada, and they do understand that value, and they realize why the type system of Ada is so powerful and impressive and valuable compared to other programming languages, because it allows you to actually define correctly and detail in a detailed way those inputs and outputs. But anyway, yeah, that was a bit extreme what I'm doing with her. So we'll see if it works with you too. And yes, I will upload it. That's my goal. I put a lot of effort on it. Yes, Divya. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Really happy to see a lively community. First of all, outside of the Ada community, people have the misunderstanding that Ada is a dead language. It's terrible. But I'm glad that that's not the case. I sort of wanted to, because I am not an Ada programmer. I've programmed in Pascal, but I haven't done Ada that much. I sort of wanted to ask, like, right now or like in the near future, what do you sort of see as these special subfield where Ada can sort of excel? Like how Haskell is a very niche thing which tries to use its type system for category theory and other things. Like, do you have like a specific area which you think sort of Ada can excel at? Because right now, like from the outside, it seems too good to be true for all sorts of things. It seems good for embedded programming. It seems good for formula verification. So I wanted to just hear thoughts on like where you think you should sort of focus. Yeah.
Does anybody want to give their own perspective on it?
So I don't do a lot of data programming. So it's my job is my career has been mainly embedded stuff. So, but even what I've done in the past with data, it's like there's just no comparison. And embedded data is just superb, and especially with the representation class, I think that's where it still excels. I haven't run across anything else that's as good.
Paul, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think the Ada community focuses too much on embedded. I work on applications, and I work on a bunch of stuff that needs to be high performance, and it is fantastic. It has great performance. It prevents so many mistakes that you would get when you're twiddling bits to make things go fast. I do think I understand the embedded argument. It sounds like it's fantastic there, but the ability to write and describe problems for applications, like on servers, like locally on desktops. I mean, it is great at problem modeling in a way that you can communicate with a lot of people with the code directly, and you can model the problem in the language without additional comments or documentation or things. There's so much you embed in the code. So yeah, that's just my thing. And that there's a lot of people who they don't get the opportunity to work in embedded for like hardware reasons or whatever. But there's a lot of kids like me who just had a laptop, just started building little applications and things. And you talk about getting younger programmers into it. That's a way to do it in terms of they want to solve the problem. They describe the problem via the language, and for onboarding, that seems like the clearest path.
If I may add, you also mentioned formal verification. I wouldn't say for a lot of people just care about formal verification in the academic sense of things, as in like maths. But the industry also cares about that a lot because they need a working product that is certified, and a lot of certification processes recommend formally verifying code and using certified tools, etc. And a lot of people know Idris, Cog, Isabelle, for example. Isabelle Hall is used for the SEL4 microkernel. The problem is all those tools, or like RockQ, Cog, also very, very well known, is that a lot of those tools only care about verification and proofs. They don't generate the final product. In Ada, Spark, you are creating the final product with verification built into it. It's not an add-on, it's not an ad hoc thing, like, for example, Rust has this also in a formal verifier, but it's given kind of like comments and notations. In Ada, it's part of the problem-solving side of things, and it gives you the final product that you're looking for. It's not a separate activity from what you're doing, and having everything built into it. And as Paul was saying, problem modeling in Ada, I think it's the best language that I've seen to do that. Also adds a lot to its clarity and power towards functional correctness. Also, Luke, I think he mentioned games. I also agree with that. I actually, in the presentation that I'm creating for my friend, most of the examples I'm creating for her are video game related, like the life of a player. How do you do that? Oh, most people would just define a float, but that doesn't tell you if they die when they have 0 life or they can have 1,000 points of life. With Ada, you can model that, and then with that information, you can create logic, which is something a lot of people don't know, and I think Ada greatly excels at that. Any information that you give from your model is executable, and you can use it in your problem solving. And I think no other language does that, just like the way Ada does, and I see a lot of great value in it. AJ, you raised your hand.
So I think I'm just going to comment on what everybody else said essentially as well. Ada feels like a killer app for saying, yeah, it's kind of too good to be true, but it kind of really is. For example, not just embedded stuff, which I don't work too much in embedded, but I do a lot with applications. I've written a game in Ada before, online game that runs in the, I've written the server for the game. I'm working on some other, I do a lot of server networking, stuff like that in Ada. And it's just, you're pretty much defining the program not by thinking about, you don't think of integers and all that stuff. You're thinking of, like what you said, with players' lives, and a life can be a thing. I wrote a money program because you can use it for currency, for gold, and that type of stuff with the video games. We have a in the Discord channel. I think there's this series, Get into Game Dev, and the person that manages that series is in the channel, always posting stuff that he's working on with video games. I know we have a couple other like that's what I've been seeing a lot of with more and more people interested in, I guess, building like working on video games in Ada. And I think what's cool about things like Spark is, like Paul was saying, you know, even people without a formal, like an academic sense training in formally proven software, Spark pretty much lowers that barrier of entry to getting good verified code out. And with SparkLib, which I've just only recently been looking into, that makes it even easier. And I'm actually also interested in like the performance of Spark. So being able to run it, if you have the proof without having runtime errors, and then you can run it without all of those runtime checks. If you've formally proved it, I'm curious how more efficient and quicker Spark would be compared to Ada, which already is pretty quick. So I would like to see more focus on like the applications side. I think we can write a lot more apps in Ada. But I really do think that it's one of those, I guess people say like it's a killer app. I think the whole language and ecosystem is a killer app for like pick a domain, and Ada is probably the answer to that solution. So yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Wesley, would you like to say something?
Yeah, and I just want to bring up this small tip, little fact of several years ago on the, I think it was Gamma Sutra website, that Tim Cook had chimed in on this topic on like, oh, the game industry is having spending so much because of rework, and he had like requested that the community like come up with a new link for gaming, game that would help solve all of it. And when he listed out all the criteria, a lot of them were actually already covered by Ada. so that happened several years ago. And so the fact that they are all using the same languages and having the same pains of like development, like it just, and whereas Ada already solved all the points that he pointed out several years ago, it's proved that Ada is a viable solution for them, because at CEO of Copper Game Company, he already laid out all the things that they need, and Ada already hit a lot of them back then.
And one final comment from my side, also Ada, while 40 years plus old of age, it also supports some of the more modern platforms or expected functionality, like WebAssembly. That's something I'm quite interested in. I've been playing around with WebAssembly a little bit, and it's super cool and very performant. People would be super amazed, and I encourage everybody to take a look at WebAssembly. It sounds like a stupid thing, but it runs fast and in very small binary sizes, and Ada supports that. So it's interesting if having the possibility of running formally verified code in your web browser with WebAssembly. That's cool and interesting. And we have people. There is a Belgian guy, Guillermo de Heisenbroek. He created a GNAV glider navigator, which is created in WebAssembly, and he has the full gliding system running on a Raspberry Pi on a Chromium window, and it's pretty cool, and you can run it right now in your browser. If you go if you search for GNAV Ada or WebAssembly, you can find it, and it has like demos, and you can just run it already there, and that's all done in Ada with the JavaScript shim to couple those two together. So yeah, obviously Ada has its issues, and if you want some of the issues, anybody I think would be able to list them without many problems. But in general, it's a pretty good language that most people either forgot or don't think too much about it, which is kind of sad, and that's why we're here trying to improve the situation.
One type of thing that I've seen is that when sometimes when people hear about Ada, or it's and lately it's been a lot about because of Spark, so it's been gaining more interest, is that people often mistaken like, oh, the Ada has all this strong type safety, right? And they seem to like relegate it to like, oh, it has to go like these other applications like C critical applications, because that's what it's well known for. But they can't seem to see like, hey, whatever makes it wonderful for those applications, it applies to most applications if you think about it. But I don't know, for some reason it's hard for people to see that. They just think, oh yeah, okay, safe critical, it's only for that. That's great. Oh, but I'll use some of these other languages, like for example Rust. But it's like, no, you can use it for anything. And I do agree, it definitely needs to be used more in applications level. My background is embedded, so that's where I'm focused on. But yeah, I do agree, it does need to be used more in application level, and it is great. It just of course the main roadblock is like the not having like a rich set of libraries. But I mean, that's will come in time as more people get interested. And I've been seeing more new people come in some of the Ada farms, and then they've been contributing, which is great. So I just think that just has to keep going, and then we can break out this, focus on just embedded and defense. It's like it can apply to lots of other areas as well.
AJ.
So there's been, I know we mentioned Rust. There's always a constantly people are saying, let's rewrite it in Rust. Let's rewrite it in Rust. And I think that's because people think of Rust as like this perfectly safe language, and it's got the memory safety, but so does Java. But it's people always constantly trying to rewrite stuff in Rust for like that memory safety, and I don't see why that couldn't be an effort with Ada, because the one thing I'm always talking about when they're like, well, why use Ada instead of Rust? One of the big factors for me is it isn't just about like memory safety, which Spark gives us completely, and Ada for the most part, but it's also the entire design of Ada from the ground up, right down to its syntax, was a conscious choice for readable code that, like, prevents a lot of bugs from the start just by the way you're writing it, and for being able to maintain huge code bases and stuff like that without getting too complex and unwieldy like C++, for example. I think there's a lot more to Ada that people need to focus on besides just having, oh, well, there's Rust, which has memory safety. Yeah, but try reading some, like, I cannot skim through a Rust library and grok what it's doing. I can do that with Ada pretty easily. So that's kind of my thoughts on that too.
Divya.
Yeah, amazing points. I think many of you said how sort of. So my background is in mathematics. I was a mathematician initially, did some formal verification in Lean, Rock, and now I'm more like a cryptographer. But I really care about software correctness. I really follow the philosophy of Etzker, Dijkstra, and Werther, and like I really want all software to be written to be correct as they're written. Now the difference is when you write something in Rock or Lean or Idris or any of these like theorem provers, you have to first write it in a theorem prover, and then you have to painfully port it into another language if you want something efficient. And that is a horrible task, and nobody wants to do it. It's extremely expensive to do that. And I don't think I have been able to convince enough people to do that. But at the same time, I think nobody, and again, this is really good that Ada can actually sort of give its advantage here, that it is both low level and at the same time has Spark, which can give you formal verification as you do programming, because this is what Dijkstra wanted. Dijkstra wanted that you should have formal verification while you do your programming, not as an external environment. So this certainly makes me very happy, and I want to look into it. And yes, you mentioned Spark Salt yesterday. I've been looking into it. Yes.
Oh, I just didn't realize you were the Telegram guy. So nice to meet you. So yeah, thank you for your comment, your question. That granted us quite a few points. Hopefully you took something out of value from them. So we are over the hour, but to be honest with you, if anybody has any other topics or announcements that they would like to talk about, please feel free to do so. I have time. And the recording is still going, so. Or I was also not reading the chat. If someone said something interesting in the chat and would like to voice it out, also feel free to do so.
One question I wanted to ask is, sorry, you can go, AJ. Just a small question. How is Ada with regards to GUI programming? Does it have sort of like bindings to GTK and other things?
We do have bindings for GTK 3. It's just called GTK Ada. The best way to get started with it is just use Adder, the package manager. It will fetch the native GTK libraries for your platform. If you're using Windows, it will download the native GTK using MSys2. If you're in Ubuntu apt, it will ask you to install them. And then it also downloads the library, the bindings, and then you can just get started. There are plenty of applications in Adder that do that. There is the Moonlander, I believe, from Fabien Chateau, which is kind of used as an example of how that works. And GTK, I would say, is the most advanced one. However, it's GTK 3, not 4. There is a proposal within the Ada Awards committee to propose an upgrade to GTK 4. But there are also people working with Qt bindings, especially through Python, which is a solution to that. There is also we have JC here. No, we have Jeffrey. Is Jeffrey here? No, not with us. He created, I forgot the name, if anybody could point it out, web-based GUIs with Ada also. So there are some solutions, and thank you. Genoga and Ada GUI. Those are web-based, HTML, CSS-based. And there are some bindings to libraries like Raylib, which, I mean, it's designed for video games, but it is also really good at creating graphical user applications. The Raylib creator was this year in FOSDEM, and he gave his entire presentation within Raylib, and he was controlling it with a Xbox controller. Well, it was amazing. I highly recommend that you take a look at Raylib in general to everybody here, and also take a look at his presentation that he gave in FOSDEM. I believe it's titled 12 Years of Raylib, and it's a really good presentation, very fun guy. So yeah, the GUI situation, we have some solutions. Is it good? Is it great? No, not that. But that's my opinion. I don't know. Yes, Timothy? You're muted if you're trying to speak. Pascal, we have Pascal here. Yes, he's doing the Qt6 Ada bindings. Timothy, if you would like to speak, you have to unmute yourself. Maybe you have to give permission to the microphone for it to work. And Divya, since you're a mathematician, we do have a fairly large ADA program. I'm not good enough at maths to give you the exact thing, but it's related to the guy is always at FOSDEM when we have a
Hello, can you hear me?
presentation. Yes, we can hear you now, Timothy.
Yeah, my main concern is that ADA. I see a lot of discussion about its safety, and it's safe. You know, my understanding of programming safety is basically it's only as good as the programmer. I mean, if you're not very careful, or if you haven't considered all the possible test cases, then that's pretty much your bottleneck there, the limitation. But I believe that ADA, the way you approach the problem, is what really makes it safe, because it forces you to consider your data types and the constraints that they have, and that pretty much organizes your code and makes it safer. But I think if we approach talking about ADA in terms of how of specifically its type system, and it's the way you can make these really cool constraints, and you can set up ranges, and then you could set up loops where it automatically stays within that range, and it doesn't, you don't have fence post errors. That's, I think, is the real strength of ADA. And I don't think we spend enough time talking about that. I think just showing people source code, like how readable it is and how beautiful the code looks, I think that's the best selling point for ADA. I think, if you just tell people, oh, it's safe, it sounds like, a lot of programmers don't want to hear that. They think, oh, I don't need safety. I'm smart enough, or I'm, careful enough. I just think that it just leads that discussion. So, and there's also this cowboy mentality. Like, I don't want anybody putting, how do I say, the training wheels on me. I can ride my own bike. So we have to really look at, that's the kind of resistance you're going to get from ADA. And then people also look at that, the very long statements, and they think that that's what ADA is doing. It's being a nanny. And, I think that's all I'm saying. I think that's where a lot of the resistance comes from. And the other thing we need to do is make sure that people can get up and running quickly. And I think a liar helps, but that's a lot of the examples I see. People don't mention a liar at all. And so, that's my viewpoint on it.
I fully agree with everything you said. Yeah. And also something I've noticed on top of what you said, many people are not used to having an expressive type system. And that is a paradigm shift that a lot of people are not comfortable with, are not used to. And I think we need to do a better job at explaining why doing such a thing in ADA, or why using the ADA way of doing things is more useful. And actually, in the presentation I gave to my friend, the first bit of code that I showed
By the way,
you.
your presentation that you gave, I think it was 2025. It was unbelievably great. I loved it.
In FOSDEM, you mean, no?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I wish that, like, on Stinson, you were just like, I mean, you were really on it. I mean, I would, that's what I sent to everybody. If anybody wants, if you got a question about ADA, I'll send them that video.
Thank you. And yeah, that's the thing. Starting with simple examples and comparisons with other languages, I think that helps people understand the difference between Ada and other languages, and the paradigm shift that needs to take place in their head to actually realize that what you're doing is a lot more succinct and precise in Ada. And as you said, of course you can have a simple range, but if you want to have it all, we have that too. And a lot of people don't know that. They only see ranges and they think, again, I believe someone mentioned it in the chat, that they think they know what they are doing. But it's not just that you define a range. You can then utilize that range, as you said, for example, in for loops, and be sure that things are just going to work, or at least not go out of bounds. So thank you for the kind words about the presentation.
So I was actually going to bring up Fernando's presentation before you mentioned it. I still send it to people, the one in FOSDEM. I think it's one of the best kind of introduction to why you should care about Ada presentations I can think of right now. Super great. I know that that same session I presented the whole get started with Ada in like 3 minutes or less, where you go from having nothing related to Ada whatsoever to running and compiling Hello World within 3 minutes, just to kind of prove, hey, the barrier to entry to getting started in Ada is super, super low. It's not hard to get going. But I wanted to mention Ada is really good at helping, like, preventing you from shooting yourself in the foot. And this is just more like of an antidote. I was working on a coordinate system, and I decided to define X and Y as their own individual types. And at one point in one of my functions, I accidentally switched X and Y. And when I compiled, the compiler caught it and said, hey, you're passing a variable of type X in this parameter where it should take variable of type Y. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. I said, move XY instead of move YX. And since I was tracking all of those as types, mostly statically defining them at the start of everything, it caught that when I tried to pass the wrong coordinate type into the function. So there's just a lot of little things like that where I made a small mistake and the compiler we're not even talking about Spark. This is just full on Ada. It's super great at catching this sort of thing.
Thank you, AJ. Yes, Ethan?
Oh, hello. I wasn't able to catch the start of this. However, I'm the person who's actually working on the parallel for loops in the GNAT free software version. So I just wanted to chime in and give some updates on how that's going. For the most part, I think we're making very good progress. I do believe we're almost ready to submit the patch to GCC. Right now, I'm working on handling certain special return values, mostly like limited types. So it's going well. I think that's kind of the last major roadblock to submitting it to GCC. Of course, there is also the aspect of testing it out exhaustively. So any beta testers would be much appreciated. I don't know if this is in any of the updates, but recently, I believe arrays are pretty much ready, iteration over arrays. The initial version of the parallel loops is not going to include iteration over containers like vector, but it will include iteration over arrays. And the reason it's not going to include container iteration is because there's a certain kind of interface that is necessary in order to make asynchronous iteration over these containers possible. Namely, I think it's called async iterator or something, but that currently isn't in the GNAT runtime. So in order to get that to work, we would have to embed it inside the runtime library that we're loading in to make this work. And there's some quirks about that the whole iterator interface and interfacing with that inside the NAT front end. But so I just wanted to give that little update. I also do need to test it more with generics, but so far my tests have been working as intended. So,
Thank you very much for your work, Ethan, and nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Also.
Nice to meet you as well.
And just if you do manage to send the patch to GCC, let me know, as I'm working with Marc Poulier from Adacore on the changelog for GCC version 16. I don't know if we will manage to, if version 16 will introduce parallel support, or if we will have to wait for next year, or maybe within a flag that kind of toggles it, as it is kind of a beta feature. But yeah, thank you very much, and let me know if you manage to send it, or just CC me. Tucker Taff has my email and everything. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yes, Wesley. We like.
So just
there you
question for Ethan. Yeah. So for testing, have you considered like testing using the parallel feature like with some gaming code, like I forgot, what was it, AJ game code, or just any of those small games that are out there in native? Have you thought about testing the parallel feature on those?
I hadn't considered it, but that's a good suggestion. Any sort of parallel task that I could just easily replace a regular loop with a parallel loop would be a good place to sort of test this. If you have any suggestions as to which repositories or projects I should give a try, I mean, feel free to message me in chat. Or I believe I'm in the Ada forum as well. I don't know if they allow direct messages there, but
we do allow for messages.
Okay. All right. So you can contact me through the forum. My profile is ELM McDonough. So post that in chat. But yeah, if you have any sort of suggestions, I'd be more than happy to look over that, see how I can get that to work.
And just to add something of context for those of you that may not be aware of Ethan's work on parallel loops, I believe that has been done within the framework of Google Summer of Code. We did not submit a special Ada application as an organization for this year's Google Summer of Code, but Tucker did submit one proposal within the GCC group, so that also this year we could have someone working on improving Ada 2022 support within the compiler. Just to let you know.
So just to answer the question in chat, can parallel be used on your own containers, not the ada.containers? So yeah, once the async iterator interface is implemented, you would be able to implement that async iterator for your own containers. I'd have to look at the documentation again just to check that that's the right name. But yes, you in the future you will be able to use it on your own containers.
Well, we have been talking for about an hour and a half, so I think we are nearing the end of this meetup. We will have to leave other topics for the next meetup. And also, I saw in the chat, in case somebody missed it, that the NATO, OTAN, depending on what country you're in, is looking for programmers. Also, there is a forum thread about companies, entities looking for jobs, looking for Ada programmers. So if you're interested, you can search it up. I think it's called Ada job postings or something. Very easy to find. And yeah, just to let you know, it's kind of like a simple announcement board that sometimes when someone sees a job posting, goes there and gives that view to the community about it. I wrote a few things on there. So yeah, in case you're interested, please do look at them. Some, I would say half of them are from the United States, and they are defense related. So unless you're a American citizen with the required clearance, you are not eligible for working in those positions. But beyond that, here in Europe we have the European airspace thingy. I just forgot. Aerocontrol. We have the train manufacturer, the French train manufacturer, which again I forgot. I have a family member working with them, and they are always looking for ADA programmers. Also, so yeah, or just ask around or come to the ADA Europe conference. A lot of chit chat goes around those corners with other people, and having face-to-face conversations and discussions always kind of opens a few doors, in case you're interested.
I forgot if it was you or someone else who had mentioned that in Europe, it's people tend to just share about jobs by word of mouth. They don't usually advertise too much. So that's, I guess, quite different than US where it's a job posting. So maybe that's why it seems like there's less.
Yes, the market is not huge, and everybody kind of knows each other or knows someone that knows someone. So it's a more one-to-one, and at least from my experience in working here in Europe, everybody first asks their circles, do you know someone that would be a good fit for this? And once the answer comes to no from several sources, that's when the job posting actually takes place. But very often it's kind of behind the scenes or just by word of mouth or connections. Not always, but I myself have done a single job application and didn't need to do anything else. So, thank you everybody for attending today's meeting. It has been super interesting and longer than I expected, which is good. And I'm also happy to see so many people coming back here. Hopefully it's not because we didn't have it for so many months, and I hope to see you next time. Hopefully in March. I'll make an announcement if that's the case. And I will most definitely not do it in April because it's Eastern here in Europe, at least in Spain where I live. So I will have holidays, but probably in March we'll have another meetup. So thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your participation and comments. And I will now make the minutes of the meeting. Thank you all. And